There is a quiet unrest that runs through the world, like a wind moving unseen yet felt in every corner. It can stir unease, pull at the edges of patience, and make even the calmest mind feel unsettled. Often it seems as though chaos is endless, news relentless, and circumstances beyond control. In times like these, it is easy to feel small, adrift, or powerless, as if the ground beneath one's feet is shifting with every passing moment. Yet within the midst of this turbulence, there is a space untouched by the storms, a space that has always been present, steady, and unshakable. This is not found in external events, which rise and fall like waves, but within, in the calm center of the mind. There lies a quiet power, a presence that does not depend on what is happening outside, but on how the mind chooses to respond. Stoicism, in its deepest form, has long guided those seeking refuge from the storms, offering a light to navigate life with clarity, calm, and dignity. Even when the world appears fractured and unpredictable, there exists a truth that the Stoics held close. Life itself is not the source of disturbance, but the judgment placed upon it. The chaos, the disappointments, the failures, all are not inherently troubling. They are events, neutral in their nature, which acquire meaning only through the lens of thought. It is the mind that gives rise to tension, the judgments that whisper discontent, the comparisons that pull one away from serenity. Understanding this is not an escape from reality or an avoidance of emotion. Rather, it is a gentle recognition that power lies in the direction of attention. The wind may rage, the seas may rise, and the skies may darken, yet the harbor remains, quietly waiting, if only the mind can anchor itself. Calmness is not a reward for circumstances, nor a privilege of fortune, but a cultivated state of being. It is the ability to stand amid life's upheavals with steadiness, noticing the waves without being carried away. In observing the human condition, one realizes how much of suffering arises from the attempt to control what is beyond reach. The world outside does not bend to desire, and events rarely align with expectation. Yet, within this understanding, there is immense freedom. A shift occurs when the focus turns inward, from what cannot be changed to the cultivation of inner virtue and clarity. Peace is found not in wishing that the world were different, but in attending to the mind and character with deliberate care. It is here that the first quiet step toward mastery emerges, a recognition that while the world may fall apart, the mind can remain whole. This recognition does not demand perfection, only attentiveness and gentle practice, an openness to observe the rhythm of life without resisting its flow. The strength of the Stoic lies not in controlling life, but in mastering response, in nurturing the inner citadel that remains safe from the storm. There are moments when the mind grows heavy under the weight of news, when the pulse quickens in response to uncertainty, when the heart feels restless for reasons that are not fully known. It is natural for the mind to wander, to imagine countless what-ifs, to see danger at every turn. Stoicism does not seek to suppress this human sensitivity, but to guide it, to show that discernment can transform worry into clarity and agitation into purposeful reflection. The practice begins with observation, with gentle attention to thoughts as they arise. It asks not to eliminate feeling, but to notice the nature of feeling, to distinguish between what is transient and what is enduring. There's a profound calm in this observation, a sense that one is larger than circumstance, capable of holding space for life's uncertainty without being overwhelmed. Through careful practice, the mind becomes a lens that clarifies rather than distorts, that measures rather than magnifies, that sees events without surrendering to them. This is the essence of quiet strength,
the ability to inhabit life fully, to meet its challenges with dignity, and to act from clarity rather than reactivity. Stories, though, illuminate these truths in ways mere instruction cannot. Across centuries, those who walked the Stoic path encountered life's turbulence as surely as any today. The great philosophers faced illness, loss, betrayal, and political upheaval, yet found calm in the midst of difficulty. Their teachings were not abstract theories, but distilled practices forged in the crucible of living. One observes how they treated adversity as neither enemy nor catastrophe, but as a natural part of existence, an opportunity to exercise discernment, resilience, and courage. Each challenge was an invitation to examine attachment, to measure desire, to refine thought. Even when confronted with the harshest trials, the Stoic mind maintained its sovereignty, not through denial of circumstance, but through mastery of judgment. This historical reflection provides reassurance that calm is attainable, not as a distant ideal, but as a practical, lived experience. Consider the gentle unfolding of a day in the life of one who seeks to embody these principles. The morning may begin with the world still resting, yet the mind awakens already burdened by concern. Thoughts drift to events far away, to outcomes uncertain, to situations that cannot be shaped by force of will. In such moments, Stoic wisdom encourages pause, a turning inward to the one realm where influence is real and direct. Awareness of breath, the acknowledgement of present reality, the naming of thoughts without attachment, these small practices constitute the first acts of mastery. By attending to perception, the mind gains clarity. By discerning what is within reach and what is not, energy is conserved, not wasted on that which resists control. This is the art of presence, the cultivation of inner poise, the first seed of resilience planted in fertile soil.
The principles of Stoicism unfold in layers, each guiding the practitioner to deeper understanding. Central among them is the notion that judgment, and not events themselves, creates disturbance. External occurrences, loss, conflict, disappointment, do not carry intrinsic harm. The harm arises when the mind interprets them through expectation, fear, or desire. The Stoic mind learns to notice these judgments, to examine them, to allow reality to exist without unnecessary resistance. In this space, freedom emerges. There's a liberation in recognizing that inner life is sovereign and that outer chaos cannot diminish the calm that is cultivated deliberately. This principle is neither harsh nor austere. It is deeply compassionate, acknowledging human vulnerability while offering a path towards steady strength. Application of this principle is subtle yet transformative. It begins with attention to thought, the quiet noticing of impulses to react. A situation may provoke fear, frustration, or grief, yet the mind learns to observe before responding, to measure the instinctive reaction against reasoned choice. This is not suppression of feeling, but it's informed management. Action arises from discernment, from the understanding that response carries power, even when circumstances do not. The simplicity of this truth belies its depth. Mastery of self is the most reliable anchor, a safeguard against the turmoil that life inevitably brings. Through consistent practice, this approach becomes natural, a part of the rhythm of daily living, a companion that steadies the heart when the world appears in disorder. Yet the power of these teachings is most evident when interwoven with experience. Reflection upon daily moments, the small irritations, the minor disappointments, the fleeting worries, becomes a laboratory for practice. Observation of thought, reframing of judgment, and mindful choice cultivate resilience before greater challenges arise.
The mind learns to distinguish the ephemeral from the essential, the controllable from the uncontrollable, the transient disturbance from enduring peace. In this discernment, the chaos of the outer world no longer dictates inner life. Calmness is recognized as both practice and state of being, a cultivated sanctuary within the mind that remains intact regardless of circumstance.
This understanding extends gently into action. The Stoic does not flee from difficulty, nor does the mind seek to impose impossible order. Rather, presence and clarity guide conduct, informing decisions with measured thought and steady intention. Challenges are met with awareness, emotion is acknowledged without domination, and insight arises naturally from observation. Over time, the habitual cultivation of calm shapes character, instills courage, and fosters a consistent capacity for serenity, even amid external turbulence. In this, Stoicism reveals itself not as abstract philosophy, but as a lived art, a guide for the mind, a balm for emotion, and a source of enduring resilience. In the quiet of daily life, the Stoic principle of discernment and calm is not merely abstract, it is lived and breathed through practice. Everyday moments, often dismissed as small or insignificant, provide the perfect canvas for cultivating inner mastery. Consider the natural interruptions of a day, tasks that go awry, conversations that irritate, plans that shift unexpectedly. Each of these experiences carries an invitation to observe rather than react, to choose response over instinct. The mind that embraces this practice gradually becomes skilled at distinguishing between what is worthy of attention and what merely seeks to disturb. The seemingly minor frustrations are transformed into exercises of patience, resilience, and clarity. In this way, the ordinary becomes extraordinary, the mundane becomes the training ground for calm, and each moment serves as a gentle reminder that control lies within, even when life resists.
Applications of these principles flow into all dimensions of experience. In work, setbacks can be seen as opportunities to refine focus and strategy rather than sources of irritation. When expectations are unmet, the response is measured, seeking understanding instead of blame. In relationships, the Stoic approach encourages patience, attentive listening, and the subtle skill of separating personal interpretation from objective reality. Emotional turbulence is not avoided, but observed, creating a space in which feelings can arise, be acknowledged, and released without domination. Even in larger, more complex events, the uncertainty of change, the unpredictability of social or political landscapes, the practice remains the same. Attention to what is within reach, deliberate choice, and careful observation. The mind, once trained, becomes both shield and compass, guiding through chaos with precision and calm. Practical exercises make these applications tangible. Journaling offers a direct path into the inner landscape, allowing thought to be named, examined, and realigned. Reflection upon the events of the day, noting which moments stirred agitation and which maintained equilibrium, develops both insight and discipline. Gratitude, too, functions as a gentle reorientation, inviting the mind to recognize what is present and good, rather than what is absent or feared. Breathing and posture practices, subtle yet powerful, link body and mind, reinforcing calm and stability in moments of tension. These practices are not separate from life. They are life lived consciously, with the awareness that every thought carries potential to shape experience, and every response cultivates the character that stands unmoved in the face of uncertainty.
Reflection deepens when the mind turns inward, observing patterns that often go unnoticed. Thoughts, like passing clouds, drift into awareness, carrying with them assumptions,
judgments, and anticipations. By noticing these currents without immediately acting upon them, the mind discovers freedom from automatic reaction. This is a cornerstone of Stoic practice, the understanding that observation precedes action, and that insight is born from quiet attention. Emotions, once freed from the compulsion to dominate thought, become signals rather than chains. Anger, fear, frustration, or grief can be acknowledged, examined, and released. In their presence, one learns to remain grounded, discerning which impulses to follow and which to set aside. Over time, this reflection forms a habit, a natural attentiveness that guides conduct and stabilizes the heart even in turbulence. Further, reflection invites a gentle examination of the mind-body connection. Tension in thought often manifests in posture, breath, or subtle bodily sensations. Observing these signals allows awareness to extend beyond abstract cognition into the lived experience of the body. A shallow breath, a tightened jaw, or a restless posture becomes a teacher, pointing toward inner agitation. By aligning breath, posture, and attention, the mind establishes harmony with the body, reinforcing calm and presence. Such reflection is not a task to be completed, but an ongoing dialogue, an intimate conversation between awareness, thought, and sensation. Through it, the mind learns to inhabit the body fully, and the body supports the mind in maintaining clarity and equanimity. Yet along this path, there are common misunderstandings that can disrupt practice if unrecognized. One frequent error is the assumption that Stoicism demands the suppression of feeling. On the contrary, true Stoic practice embraces emotion with attentiveness, discerning which reactions serve understanding and which lead to disturbance. Another misunderstanding is the belief that calmness emerges instantly, as if it were a reward for thought alone. In reality, serenity grows incrementally, cultivated through repeated attention and deliberate choice. There is also a tendency to misidentify control, attempting to shape outcomes that lie beyond reach. Such effort, while natural, results in frustration. The Stoic mind learns to redirect energy, focusing on thought, judgment, and action, the only realms where influence is real. Recognizing these patterns prevents unnecessary suffering and encourages patience, reinforcing the gentle discipline that Stoicism fosters. Missteps are not failures, but guides, providing insight into habitual tendencies and offering the opportunity to adjust. Impulsivity, blame, and judgment can be softened with observation. Irritation and anxiety can be moderated with mindful awareness. The subtle distinction between what is internal and external becomes a practical tool, transforming reactive habits into conscious choices. Even when mistakes occur, the Stoic mind maintains equanimity, understanding that learning is inherent to practice. There is no need for harshness or self-reproach, only observation, correction, and continued engagement with the principles that cultivate strength and calm. Through consistent reflection, insight deepens, and the ability to remain steady in life's turbulence becomes a lived, familiar experience rather than an abstract ideal. In the ongoing practice of observation, application, and reflection, the mind gradually develops resilience. Small exercises accumulate, forming a foundation of stability that supports larger challenges. A moment of agitation can be met with measured breath. A disruption in routine can be met with discernment. Disappointment can be met with acceptance. Each response becomes a reinforcement of calm. Each reflection a step toward mastery. The harmony between thought and body, attention and action grows more natural with time. In this gentle cultivation, the power of Stoicism reveals itself, not as a rigid set of rules, but as a practical, living guide, capable of sustaining the mind and heart through even the most tumultuous circumstances. In turning reflection into deliberate action, the principles of Stoicism reveal their most practical power. The awareness cultivated through observation and discernment becomes a tool to shape daily life, guiding choices with intention rather than impulse. Each day presents opportunities to practice what has been considered. The simple act of noticing thought, pausing before reaction, or choosing understanding over frustration. Journaling remains a profound exercise, capturing the mind's patterns, clarifying emotions, and reinforcing insight. By writing, the invisible becomes visible, and insight solidifies into habit. Even a brief note on a thought, an observed tendency, or a moment of calm serves as a seed, gradually expanding into a resilient and steady approach to living. Gratitude, too, functions as a gentle anchor, turning attention to the constants that remain supportive, the elements of life that are secure and sustaining. Through such small, consistent actions, calm and clarity are not distant ideals, but tangible aspects of experience.
These action steps are most effective when grounded in the consistent practice of examining what is within reach. Control exists only over thought, attitude, and response. The external world continues its movement without deference to desire. Recognizing this distinction is liberating, freeing attention and energy from fruitless struggle. It allows the mind to act with precision and calm, to invest effort where it bears fruit, and to let go of attachment to outcomes that resist shaping. Choices guided by discernment, rather than impulse or fear, naturally produce steadiness and steadily reinforce the inner citadel. Through repetition, this approach becomes intuitive, a natural rhythm of living in which the mind navigates both the trivial irritations and the profound challenges of life with poise and equanimity. The mind-body connection emerges as both subtle and central in this practice. Thought and emotion are inseparable from the physical form, each influencing the other in continuous dialogue. Tension in the body often mirrors unrest in thought, while composed awareness nurtures a relaxed, balanced state. By attending to posture, breath, and physical sensation, the mind cultivates support from the body, and the body, in turn, reinforces the mind's calm. Simple acts, slowing the breath, adjusting posture, softening muscles, become extensions of reflection, practical measures to maintain equilibrium when the world pressures from outside. These small, intentional alignments remind that calm is not a passive state, but an active engagement of mind and body, a conscious inhabitation of presence. In this harmony, the Stoic finds resilience, energy, and clarity, discovering that internal stability is never accidental, but always cultivated.
10. The closing of this understanding is not an end, but a gentle reminder that mastery of life begins with mastery of self. Calmness, clarity, and purpose are cultivated, not granted. They arise from patient attention, careful observation, and repeated practice. Each choice to observe rather than react, each moment to act from reason rather than impulse, gradually builds a life that remains firm even when circumstances shift unpredictably. The Stoic way does not promise a world free from difficulty, but it guarantees a mind capable of navigating difficulty with steadiness, dignity, and resilience. In this practice, peace is found not as absence of challenge, but as presence of wisdom, patience, and inner fortitude. It is the cultivation of a sanctuary that cannot be shaken by fortune, a quiet strength that endures beyond circumstance. There is profound reassurance in the realization that even amidst turbulence, one is never without guidance. The principles of Stoicism offer a compass, pointing toward clarity, equanimity, and intentional living. Through reflection, application, and mindful attention, the mind becomes both anchor and sail, holding steady while moving gracefully through life's uncertainties. Each day offers opportunity to strengthen this inner citadel, to exercise discernment, to act with intention, and to harmonize mind and body. It is through such daily cultivation that calm becomes natural and resilience a steady companion. The winds of the world may shift, yet the inner harbor remains, nurtured by wisdom, strengthened by practice, and illuminated by gentle awareness.
As the mind continues this practice, a final affirmation may serve as a quiet reinforcement, a gentle echo of insight, that peace is cultivated within, that calm can be chosen, and that the clarity of thought shapes both perception and response. These are not mere words, but reminders of the lived truth, accessible at any moment when attention returns to presence and reason. The path of Stoicism is ongoing, subtle and profound, requiring patience and care, but rewarding with a stability that supports growth, understanding, and lasting serenity. Through deliberate attention, reflection, and measured action, the mind becomes resilient and the heart steady. Calm, once cultivated, remains steadfast, even while the world continues its motion. Ultimately, the enduring lesson of Stoicism is that life itself cannot be predicted or commanded, yet the mind always remains within reach of mastery. Strength is found not in controlling circumstance, but in governing response, in nurturing perception, and in exercising patience. Through gentle awareness, thoughtful action, and mindful alignment of mind and body, the turbulence of life is met with quiet confidence. Each moment of practice reinforces the next, creating a steady rhythm of calm, clarity, and thoughtful presence. The Stoic way is a path of empowerment, a reminder that peace is neither passive nor external, but a cultivated, living reality, present in every breath, every thought, and every choice.